Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
Hi, folks, and welcome to another installment of Ballsy Uncut. I believe this is 111 as we're continuing to grow. Thank you for checking us out. I do appreciate it. It's a privilege to have you in the world of social media. Like, the difference between social media and like mainstream radio is you turn your radio on, it's there. Here you have to actively search it out, and our numbers continue to grow, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule to watch it live, listen to it live, or in podcast form, and in on X, Facebook, YouTube. The easiest to not miss out is subscribe on the YouTube channel. You can get the links if you're having trouble finding it. Just go to ballsyuncut.ca. That's my website as well. All the information, how you can be a sponsor. If you'd like me to sign up or sign me up to be an MC, I like doing that too. Going to be doing the Weyburn Red Wings dinner once again on October the 9th, just in the planning stages of that. Wings off to round number 2 of the playoffs, which I believe, as I'm airing this today, get going on Friday. All right, I wanted to talk about the big story of the CFL world this week, which was obviously the hiring of Stuart Johnston, the former president of TSN, as the new commissioner of the Canadian Football League, the 15th commissioner of the CFL. I don't know him at all, didn't even know the name really until this announcement came down. Now, that doesn't mean that that he's a nobody. It just means I didn't know. But anybody that I've talked to or that I've seen comments from, guys who are my friends like Matt Dunnigan, Glenn Suter, they say it's a great hire. So I guess it's a great hire. I'm going to reserve judgment on that till I see what he can do. I will say this. It does concern me. Now, listen, TSN probably saved the league with the $50 million in the TV deal, and those rights are coming up. And I think part of the reason Stuart Johnston was hired is to be the lead voice in renegotiation of those rights. Doesn't look like Rogers or Sportsnet will be in the bidding. They just gave $1 bajillion and will be increasing cell phone prices to pay for hockey. So it is the one big entity that TSN still has, and I know they've gone through some changes at Bell Media. There was some thought that they were going to sell off TSN. Don't know if that's going to happen or not, but Johnston knows the inner workings of TSN, so if they're going to renew the rights, that's a great hiring. That right there's a great hiring. But apparently he's a well-connected guy, and that's good. This was a very important hire, and I will, like I say, reserve judgment till I see a little more from him in this role. But like I was going to say, it does concern me that he was leading a network that spent all that money on football and really has done not that much, in my opinion, to grow the popularity of the game. Not a great job of marketing the players. They don't cover the combine live. They have 5 channels, don't cover it live. They don't cover the draft in its entirety live. They have 5 channels. You'll say, well, the ratings aren't there. Well, the ratings are never going to be there if you don't try. You gotta mix the cement before you can put the foundation on, before you can build the house. And in some respects, we're not even at the cement mixing stage. Somebody has to take that first step. I hope Stuart Johnston will be the guy. So that's why I reserve judgment. But if I'm the commissioner, and I'm not, he is, you need the TV rights renewed. TSN needs to get on board. I do not see a world where Rogers gets into it. So you're going to have to try to get some streaming going, either with features, like kind of like they did that running back documentary with Andrew Harris, which I thought was well done. We need more of that, whether on, with the partner TSN or wherever their broadcast partner is, or with the streaming service. But those streaming services are looking for content, and it would be nice if the CFL could link up. I think that's a key. Also, maybe the CBC. I personally am all for defunding the CBC, to be quite frank with you. But if the CBC is still going to be funded by taxpayers, what better Canadian entity than the CFL? Truly Canadian professional football. They used to do it, and they did a pretty good job of it. So let's get going, even if we got to bring back Scott Oak. Let's get Scott Oak hosting again. I love Scott Oak. Anyway, that the TV rights streaming's number one. I think number two, like I said, market the players. Let's cover the combine. Let's cover the draft. You got to do that. That's a no-brainer. That is a no-brainer. I heard they didn't want to cover the combine because it would cost $40,000 and they only had 200 viewers. I don't believe they only had 200 viewers, and if they did, you got to start somewhere. And $40,000, maybe it is. I tell you right now for free. I'll tell you right now for free. This guy has approached people in this community to help me fund that going forward, and I am in the process of approaching the CFL, and I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try to do it going forward from here on out. I've already got some co-hosts lined up. I've got a media company that's going to help me, and I've got some people that will help financially. So I'm either going to get them to let me do it, or I'm going to embarrass somebody into doing it, because it should be done from here on out, okay? And it has nothing to do with my kid, because my kid was in this year's combine. I've always been supportive of Canadian football, so we can stop that rubbish, which I've heard before too. And also, the third thing you need to do, and some purists won't like this, and I would consider myself a CFL purist, but let's be honest, this whole expansion in Canada, it isn't happening. It's not happening out west, and it's not happening out east. Canadians just don't have the appetite to spend money on sports, really. They don't. Americans do. And I know there's this whole U.S. versus Canada. We know who kind of started it, Donald Trump. I still think Americans like Canadians, Canadians like Americans. I really think the main path to survival and growth is expansion to the United States. I've said it before, and not so far south. The northern states, except for St. Louis. I think St. Louis has proven that they will support any type of football. Battlehawks now in the, I forget which leagues they've been in, but the Battlehawks are in the United Football League, they're calling it. United Football League maybe has 1 year left. The ratings aren't great. The attendance isn't great. Americans basically have said, listen, it's the NFL or bust. But I do believe there's a shot along the northern states. North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and St. Louis. So how about this? Let's expand. Let's try to get to 12 teams, because in 1959, 66 years ago, there were 12 NFL teams and 9 CFL teams. 66 years later, there are 32 NFL teams and 9 CFL teams. We'll never get to what the Americans are. That's apples and oranges. But we can certainly try to breathe new life into this league. Better for betting, better for fantasy, whether you're into it or not. The young kids are. It'll create more hype, more TV deals. I mean, you get an American. They already are covering on CBS Sports Network, but you get some northern states involved. You could get ESPN Plus or CBS Sports Network really buying in to covering the CFL. Now, there are some logistics to work out, like what are the players? Do the players in America get paid American dollars, and here in Canada it's Canadian dollars? How does that work when you're vying for free agents? The ratio. I will say this. Canadian players are better, way better now than they were back in the day, with all due respect. And they were good back then. I liked them back then, but they're better now. That's inarguable. Can't argue that. So you've got better players in Canada. They're playing in Canada and in the States. So you've got that going for you. And back in the day in American expansion in the early 90s, Canada, the Canadian teams using Canadian players and the American teams using all American players, the record was 500 and 1-1 in Grey Cups. So let's not get carried away that they'd kick our ass. That's a false statement. That's a myth. Okay? That's a myth. So if we were going with American expansion, ballsy, I don't know, within 5 years, I'd hope we can get to 12 teams, because I know firsthand they like to spend money on their sports in all states and in those border states. Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. I spent 4 years watching my son play football down there. They spend money on sports, stupid amount of money. They don't care. They love their sports. So yeah, you'd have to look at maybe reconfiguring some of the fields. But here we go. In the West, Calgary, Edmonton, a Montana team, Saskatchewan, BC, and St. Louis. And I put St. Louis there to kind of balance things off. Because hear me out. Here's your East. Toronto, Hamilton, rivals. Ottawa, Montreal, close proximity, rivals. And then you've got Winnipeg. Bomber fans won't like it, but they've gone from east to west to kind of help out the league when we went between 9 and 8 teams. But they're right kind of in the middle, and a lot of Manitobans almost consider themselves Easterners, I feel. I could be wrong. But Winnipeg in the east, along with North Dakota. You got proximity, a rivalry there. Could be Fargo, could be Grand Forks. Both have indoor stadiums. Fargo's is a little bigger. But it's just some thoughts. I think you got to look that way. A lot of our players come from the FCS. And a lot of those, like North Dakota, maybe not so much St. Louis, but North Dakota, Montana, they know where Saskatchewan, Alberta, where Canada is. So, I mean, most of America doesn't know where North Dakota is when we're talking borders and disrespect. The North Dakotans are disrespected by their own people in their country, even though they supply a lot of the oil and energy. So, yeah, in the West, Calgary, Edmonton, Montana, Saskatchewan, BC, St. Louis. In the East, Toronto, Hamilton, Ottawa, Winnipeg, and North Dakota. Let's go, Commissioner Johnston. Let's get things going. Hey, we got Logan Ferland coming up on the show, and we like to talk student athletes. We're going to talk to Ash Noureldin, who was in Regina as the Big Brothers lead for years, turned around that program, really got it going. Now he is running something that's out of Los Angeles, but very much in Canada now and very much in Regina. It's Mathnasium. We're talking the student side of student athletics, okay? And how people are struggling with math and how our education system is really letting not just athletes, but students down. And it's not the teacher's fault. Anyway, that's all upcoming here on Ballsy Uncut. Well, you really are a man of the province. Melfort guy, Regina guy, now Saskatoon guy. Logan Ferland joining us. You get covering all your bases now.
Yeah, you got that right. No mistake about it. Everyone seems to know who I am lately.
Yeah, well, is that a good thing? Do you like linemen don't like popularity. Do you get fined for being popular?
Was more of a thing in the past. Back in the junior days, we had a interview fine anytime we're interviewed. It was, I think, about $50, but I'm glad that doesn't happen right now because I'd probably owe quite a bit here. Mm-hmm. Never been a big fan of being in the public eye. That's partly why I love being an old lineman. We can kind of fly under the radar. I can still go to Costco and not be able to complete my shopping or something like that. But it gets harder and harder every year because being from Sask, playing for the Riders, it's hard to avoid that publicity sometimes.
Yeah, but you said it yourself in other interviews. You wouldn't want to play anywhere else. Like you're a Saskatchewan kid, and it matters here, and it's cool to be in a place where it matters.
Yeah, you're right. It really is cool to be in a place that matters, especially when you have a football team that's doing well. On the other side of things, when you are in the more negative times, it can be really tough to play here. But that's what we sign up for, and we want nothing but the best for the fans in the end.
So last year, let's just touch on it for a second, okay? You guys, not often do you go on an 8-game winless skid and still finish in second place. You talk about being in a place when it's losing, it's not so good, and I totally concur with that and agree 100%. So you were in that. You got to live both lives, but at some point in that 8-game slide, did you say to yourself, holy shit, here we go again?
Not a chance. That was the really cool thing about the team and the locker room that we developed, because not one person in that room started thinking negatively. We knew what we had, and we knew that if we trust in the process, we're going to get where we need to be. That was the coolest thing about this last season that I felt versus maybe seasons in the past where certain guys might feel a certain way on early on or start feeling that here we go again kind of vibe, but did not feel that at all last season. And I think it starts from the top and trickles down to the rest.
So you said you're not real comfortable doing interviews, or you weren't, but you seem like you are pretty good in the public eye. You come on, you never have turned me down. You've been in other places, so you get that aspect of it. It's sports entertainment, but you're also in the classroom with the kids, so you're obviously comfortable there too. Just talk about being an ambassador off the field and what you're doing for the Rough Riders.
Yeah, it's something that's really special to me. Obviously getting into it, very nerve-wracking thing when you're presenting to kids, whether it's our Win with Wellness program for talking about mental health or rider reading when we're talking to the younger grades. That can be nerve-wracking. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to sound like an idiot in front of those guys. Obviously, you want to inspire them to do great things when they're older. And so something really special to me is being able to do that. And the more I do it, the better you're going to get at, just like anything else. So really close to my heart, being able to talk to those kids and being able to shape maybe their thoughts on challenging themselves a little more in life and growing, because I think that's something we lack is resiliency in our lives, especially nowadays. So I think it's important to instill those kind of qualities in kids when they're young, so that they learn how to grow and learn how to get stronger when they're alone in life later on.
It's funny. So my son played NCAA. He played U Sports. He was at the Combine. I asked him, how different is what you played with or against in NCAA different than what you're on the field with the best athletes in Canada? And he said, a lot of it's perception. Like, there are elite athletes in the States, right, playing football, but it's perception. And where I'm going with this is it's perceived. Yeah, junior football, it's great. It's nice. Like, it's a good avenue for guys that maybe can't make it. And that's kind of the stereotype, or has been the stereotype. Not so much anymore, but in the past. But you're a prime example. It doesn't matter where you start. Just how much do you wear that as a sense of pride, coming from junior football, Melfort junior football, to where you are now?
It's something I take a lot of pride in, because a lot of guys underestimate anyone coming from the junior programs. And yeah, we do have to put in extra work because we aren't seeing the exact same competition level as universities would be. That's a given. Everybody knows that. You could argue as much as you want that certain junior teams will beat universities, but I'm sorry. You're going to have to put in more work if you want to be able to climb to that level just as fast as those university players. So focusing on the little things, doing the things that nobody likes to do, and doing things outside of just the field work, but focusing on your nutrition. Like I said, all the little things that nobody else really seems to worry about, even in university programs. That's something I'm really prideful about, and I think a lot of junior guys are starting to understand, realizing they have to put that extra work in if they want to do the same things or have the same opportunities as those university players. It takes a lot of extra work in order to kind of match that level.
So you're making a good chunk of change, and it's well deserved. We're not going to go into the dollars and cents, but I like to listen to people. So do you reinvest? Will you reinvest some of your money back into your body with to take care of your body? Because NFL guys do know they have an extra zero on their paycheck, but I would think proportionately it'd be smart for you to invest some money back in yourself.
Yeah, that's honestly where a lot of my money goes, is back into my body. I spend a lot of money on nutrition. And making sure I'm eating the right foods, investing in a nutritionist, investing in the gym, investing in massages, physiotherapy, and anything that's going to help me along the way. That's a lot of things people don't realize is the toll it's going to have on my body in 10 years. It's going to be a pretty hefty fine to pay later. And I'm paying that physically, not from the wallet necessarily, but it's going to trickle to that as well. So the more I can do now, it's all about longevity. For me at this point, is being able to stay healthy. That's the name of the game. I know exactly what I need to do, and reinvesting that money is key in that, in my mind. I have probably spent over $30,000 on protein alone since I've started playing football, and that's not even a joke. mass gainer. Being able to keep my calories up while I'm working a construction job as well. Back in the day, I was spending a ton of money on nutrition. It didn't just start now.
So are you still doing your renovation business in the off season there?
Not as much. No, I'm pretty busy with just foundation work. Right now, that's been something that I've really found really special, being able to kind of get out in the province, mostly around Saskatoon right now, but also having the ability to go back home or small towns around that area. Being able to talk to those kids, holds a special place in my heart. So being able to do that has definitely taken over for my construction business.
So I'm not going to ask I'm not going to word it this way. Is it worth it? But you mentioned the toll on your body. Why is it worth it? Why is it worth it to play football to you? Besides, I mean, you're getting paid, but you're not becoming a millionaire playing football. Why is it worth it for you?
For me, being having the opportunity to inspire the next generation, I think is important. Went through a lot of difficult times when I was younger. So being the voice for those kids that are going through those times, or maybe haven't gone through those times, but just need somebody to show them what can happen if you challenge yourself and you put yourself out of your comfort zone. That's something that's really special to me, and that's why I do it now. Yes, obviously setting a family future up financially is very important, and I wouldn't be making the same amount of money if I was being a carpenter, even if I was at the top status at a company. I wouldn't be touching the money I'm making right now. But it's still really important for me to not only be financially secure later on for my family, but also to build the next generation for this province and the rest of the country. I think that's very important.
I love it, man. You're definitely a guy to look up to. So, besides paying for all the protein, okay, do you give yourself a chance to enjoy it, like you and your girlfriend Talia? Is that her name? Did you take her out for supper? Did you buy yourself anything, or even enjoy it by just sitting back and thinking to yourself, "Holy cow, I'm making good money playing a kid's sport, and I started from here."
Yeah, you definitely need to portion finances to celebrate a little bit. Growing up, my father was very, very frugal, and we did enjoy our time, enjoy our moments without maybe using a lot of money. And I think that's definitely a possibility. But if I've learned anything, it's to be able to take a portion of it and still have fun with it. I think it's important to not only invest it in a smart way for the future, but you need to have fun. You got to enjoy and celebrate what you've done for yourself, what you've been able to accomplish, but obviously not going too far. And you see that a lot of guys, making a decent chunk of change that aren't very smart with it, and it's going to affect them later on. But I feel like if guys are very smart and very frugal with it now, aside from a little bit of celebrating here and there when the times are right, I think it's very important to do, and it's going to set a guy up for the rest of his life if he's really smart with it.
So Logan, you mentioned something about looking after your body, and the number one thing in any sport, but in particular football, is availability. That's your best ability. But for you, it's versatility. You're going to go down as one of the best linemen to play for the Roughriders. I think that's a no-doubter. And people at the end of your career could make a case that you were maybe the best lineman ever. My words, not yours. You're a humble guy because you can play all the different positions. The only guy I'd put in that category since I've been watching Rough Rider football is Brendan Labatt. You're a Brendan Labatt kind of guy. That's how I feel. Just talk about the versatility and what goes into that. We kind of touched on it in other interviews, but I don't think people really realize. You go to center, you go to guard. You played everything, I think, but left tackle this year, and in other years you've done them all in one season. Just how tough is that, Logan, and how much pride do you take in doing that?
Yeah, I take a lot of pride in it. Very difficult thing to do, but when you really dumb it down, it's as easy as practicing those little things. Again, going back to doing all the little things nobody else likes to do. Yeah, it sucks to have to not just train your position, but get used to left tackle. A completely opposite stance, completely opposite sets you're taking. completely opposite vision you have of the field from that side. Yeah, it sucks. But again, challenging yourself, being uncomfortable or being comfortable being uncomfortable is something I pride myself on. So, and obviously being the readily available for any spot, it's going to help my team, and that's why I enjoy doing it, and that's why I think it's very important that everyone has the ability to and the flexibility to go everywhere, because that's the more valuable you're going to be. If you have multiple guys go down and you only have 6 linemen dressed, well, guess what? You're going to be in an uncomfortable spot, or you're going to have Micah Johnson come play guard beside you and do a great job as he did. But if you don't have that guy on the D-line that can play that position, frankly, you're going to be screwed. So if you have enough guys that can play multiple positions, then I think it's very, very important and crucial to a team's success at the end of the day.
You're in a unique position to ask this question. Not a lot of guys could answer it. So in your opinion, what's the toughest position to play on the offensive line?
I don't think there is a toughest position to play. I think it totally depends on every position has its pros and has its cons. Somebody at tackle, they might have an easier time mentally because you're either attacking the defensive end or your combination with the guard. Whereas somebody at center is going to have a harder time mentally because he has to know what everybody's job is. And learning it from a center standpoint can be really beneficial. So whereas physically, tackle is probably one of the harder positions. But also being a guard can be extremely hard physically as well, because now you're kind of the middleman. You're in between the center and the tackle. So a lot of your combinations could change. You also have 2 different personalities you're dealing with. Maybe your center wants more help. Maybe your tackle wants more help. And now they're both yelling at you because you didn't help either. Or you only helped the other guy. So it's very important to also realize where you're at on the field, because it changes based on where you are. So I wouldn't say there's a specific O-line position that is the hardest. I think it depends who you are. If you're a tackle and you've only played tackle, well, if you switch to center, that's probably going to be the hardest position you play. If you're a center and you've only played center, and now I have to move to tackle, that's going to be my new hardest position. So I think it really changes. I don't think there's an end-all, be-all position that is the hardest. It also depends on your body size too. If you got a guy that's 6'8", well, he's probably not going to be a very good center because he has to get down there, snap the ball, versus him just being in a 2-point stance on the edge. So changes. There's so much more we could talk about regarding that, but I wouldn't say there's an end-all, be-all hardest O-line position.
It's fascinating to me to watch you, though, because I used to call the games, and just to watch you. Like, there was a game in Calgary, I can't remember. I think you went from right guard to center, and then you were at left tackle, all in the same game. How many repetitions does that take in practice or film work? Because here's the thing that gets a lot of people in trouble in the CFL, okay? You got a lot of time on your hands. They can only keep you at the facility 4.5 hours. You have to be a disciplined mofo, pardon the pun. You have to be disciplined. You have to treat it like it's a craft, and that's how you get to Logan Ferland's level, making the money he does, because he does exactly what he just said. But how many repetitions does that take? How much film work? Because I know it's muscle memory, but come on, you're over here on the right side. All of a sudden, you got to flip to the left side. You're going against the stout nose tackle inside. Now, all of a sudden, you're going on the outside against, I don't know, Micah Rose or Willie Jefferson or whoever.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it changes based on what position you're in, obviously. The easiest way I find it mentally is to learn from a center standpoint. That was taught to me by Dan Clark. Learn everything from a center standpoint, and you will see the field in a totally different light. And that's what I tell every tackle, every guard, every center. Learn from a center standpoint, and you will understand the game a whole lot better. If you're able to make those calls, even though you might not ever have to, you're going to see the field in a very different way. You're going to be able to see blitzes coming before they happen. Or if you get in the quarterback room, listen to those guys, what they're looking at, different things, or even the ability to change a protection like Trevor Harris does with all of his experience he's had. That is knowledge that you need to soak up and learn from a mental standpoint. And then from a physical standpoint, yeah, a lot of reps. It's starting with your most uncomfortable position when you're doing that O-line work, and go from there. I mean, run blocking is run blocking. You know, you step past the line, you have to keep your base, and you're driving as long as you can with that hip explosion through the block. You're going to find that exact same thing across the line regardless. What's going to change a little bit is your pad level. The guys you're going against, you know, DNs are going to be a little smaller, but they're going to be quicker, so you have to be able to adapt to that and get your second step in the ground and be able to drive through that. Versus a center, well, now I have to get all the way down here, snap the ball, and step at the same time after I've made all these calls. And that weight on your shoulders is very, very different compared to being a guard, where I don't really have to say anything. I might make a point, help the center out with something that I see, but it's crazy the difference I feel when I go to center versus guard, even if it's a practice rep. The weight on your shoulders to make the right call, it's a heavy weight. If you make the wrong call, it is all on you. Whereas if I'm a guard and if I make the wrong call, I can just blame it on my center. Not that I'm going to do that and throw him under the bus. That'd definitely be a fine. We're talking about fines earlier. That would definitely be a sewer fine for sure. Don't want to throw the guy under the bus, but you know, he has to take the blame because he is the center. And that.
What do you think of your new center?
I'm excited to play with Sean McEwen. I've always been a fan of how he moves, his athletic ability, especially in open space, and how smart he is. Very intelligent guy. You know, talking to him about just chalk talk in general. Very intelligent guy, and knows exactly what he's doing. He's proven it year after year. How many All-Stars does he have now? Like, it's all been proven, and very excited to play beside him.
Okay, last question for you, man. So you said you had some challenging times growing up and went through some things. That's what you try to tell the kids. I want 27-year-old Logan Ferland to give that young kid a piece of advice here on my show. If you could write a letter to the younger Logan Ferland right now, who's making $200K, the best offensive lineman in the Canadian Football League, in my opinion, guys doing work off the field, what would this Logan Ferland, if he could whisper in that kid's ear, what would he say?
I'd say trust the process. Continue fighting through that process, fighting through the outside noise, and just believe in yourself. Self-belief, I think, and self-confidence was something I really didn't have a lot of. And, you know, a lot of football players do deal with that kind of imposter syndrome where you feel like you don't deserve it even if you have put in the work. So I think having that self-confidence and being a little cocky at times, being very confident in your ability, knowing that the time you put in is going to be exactly what you get out. Time in is exactly what you're going to get out when it comes to football. So if I don't have a straight shot answer, but that would be a few things that I would probably tell my younger self.
Hey, can I squeeze one more in here? Because I like listening to people, and you said something interesting there, because I believe it's true. Why do you think players they have that imposter syndrome, like you said? Why don't they relish or enjoy their success? Why are they worried? Is it have that mentality? Is it the insecurity of the business, or what is it?
I think it's important to have a little bit of imposter syndrome, so you always chase that, because I think when guys get too comfortable, they're not going to be working as hard. I think that really is something I am prideful of, that, you know, even if I am paid a certain amount or I am seen as that guy, I still have to put as much work in, if not more than that guy trying to make the team for the first time, or that guy training for the CFL Combine. If I have that mindset, I think it's very important to have that kind of mindset as far as your work ethic goes. You know, I look at a guy like Jamarcus Hardrick, Yoshi. Man, the amount of time he puts in and how enthusiastic and dedicated to the game he is, I've hardly ever seen that in my career. You know, saw that from the older SAS players that are no longer playing, like the Dan Clarks, the Brendan Labatts, the guys that put that crazy amount of time in. But Yoshi's another one of those guys that, man, it's inspiring seeing the dedication he has at his age and how many years he's played, and he is still, testing my ability and calling me out on things. So the fact that I can challenge myself with a guy like that and then hopefully be that voice for the younger guys, I think it's extremely important. So I think that imposter syndrome helps. Where it can hurt is where a guy lacks that confidence. And then he almost gets so down on himself where he doesn't want to put the work in. I think that's where guys will start procrastinating more. Really easy to fall into social media trap, doom scrolling now, and just not do anything, right? Procrastination is a killer. Like that can destroy a guy's career, no matter the career he's in. You can sit on your phone, you can find the easy way out, you can blame everybody else for your issues nowadays, and that seems to be something that's promoted, is falling the victim and not doing nothing but complain. And that's really what kind of drives me, is a lot of our generation are frankly wimpy at times, and they just want to blame their problems on everybody else. And there's nothing I hate more. And I think it's important to have that kind of extreme ownership throughout your life, and continue kind of inspiring the next generation to do the same.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I congratulate you, and I'm proud of you. I know it's kind of a weird statement, but I am proud of you. Being a Saskatchewan guy, junior football, it's always been close to my heart, and still call the Thunder games, and just the fact that you're just a good guy off the field, too. Thanks for your time, man. Enjoy some of that cabbage you're earning. You deserve it. Take your girlfriend out. Go do something fun, too, okay?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that.
Well, this guy here came to Crestview Chrysler and got a vehicle off of yours truly. Thanks, Ash. I appreciate it, man. It's always great talking with you. Now, when we talked in a previous life, you were a Big Brother executive. You were helping turn around that program and did so in a great fashion. And now you're on to still helping the youth out. Mathnasium, Rochdale, 4127 Rochdale, if I got my brain on correct, right?
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So I was good with numbers growing up. There's no doubt about it. Not algebra, but I was good with just like numbers. And when the punt went from the 26 to the 35, I didn't need a stats guy. I could quickly get it done. But
Math follows you everywhere you go, man.
You got that right. Okay, so Mathnasium. Tell us about Mathnasium and what you guys do.
We're a math learning center for kids. The sign on the door says grades 2 to 12, but we've quickly learned that everyone seems to have, need some help with math. So we've kind of opened it up to kids who are in university, even young adults actually, who are trying to go back to like a post-secondary space where they're seeking out to get a journeyman's ticket or whatever. Math, doesn't matter where you want to be when you grow up, man, math is going to follow you.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. People like, why you have an Ash on? This is a sports podcast generally. Yeah. Well, we talk about student athletes, and a lot of times it's one thing to be an athlete, but you forget to be a student. So that's kind of why I tried to tie it in here. Now, I have a guy, his son he goes, oh, you're talking to Ash, I see. Said, yeah, because he saw you in buying a car. He goes, my kid goes to Mathnasium, and it's really helped him out. How many kids are you dealing with right now?
Oh,
you know off the top of your head?
At any given moment, we're over 100 students. We've served so far students in about 115 schools, and this stems from like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, even North Dakota and Montana. So no, I'd say the numbers, like I don't know what our total numbers are, but it's a lot.
Just how bad a state is the education system in? Like you see in the States, they're getting rid of their Department of Education to take it back to a state level so that, it was better at a state level. That's the theory. But here in Canada, here in Saskatchewan, let's just drill right down here in Saskatchewan. How bad is our education system? Because here's the one thing that drives me nuts, Ash. I've said this for years. If I completed only 47% of my tasks at Crestview Chrysler, they'd fire me. If I only broadcast half a football game, if I did the first half for you and then just let it run audio in the second half, I'd be gone. Why is it okay to not be a passing student now? That's what I feel our education system is.
Well, oh man, that is such a loaded question, brother. I don't even know where to start with that. The education system, I'll talk about math. Math was never broken, and along came some people and said, well, let's try and fix it. The problem is that we're no longer making decisions based on facts. We're just making decisions based on feelings. One of the biggest issues that I hear parents talk about on a daily basis for the last 6 years, it is the same bloody phone call every single time, Ballsy. And it's that I actually don't know how my child is doing. We get these ambiguous report cards from EDSB or online or whatever, and it just says my kid's meeting expectations or my kid's approaching them, or what the hell does that even mean? And no one really knows what that means. I'll even speak to teachers about this often, and even there, it's very fluid. It's very subjective. It's not anything with certainty. And the reason why that just doesn't work in math is because math is a very sequential subject. Everything that a kid is taking in the classroom today is based on something they took yesterday. So if they don't have yesterday absolutely locked down, then it's going to punish them today. And so this notion that if you don't finish the race, if you want to take it to sports, if you don't finish the race, here's a gold medal anyways, it's not a good philosophy. I get it. It comes from a nice place. We don't want to hurt feelings, and lest we tell someone, don't, got to do it again. But it's just not serving that purpose, because what's happening is now we have kids who are just being told, good enough, see you next year, bye. And then they get to the next year and the next topic, and it's just getting harder and harder and harder and harder. Ask them how they feel, and they'll tell you, they'll be very honest. They don't feel very good, yet everyone was doing this because we didn't want to hurt their feelings. Well, now they're sitting there holding this bag of crap that is just incredibly heavy, and the last thing they're feeling is good. So
yeah, that is, you hit it right on the head. Like we're not preparing them. Like the world is not chips and gum. It's not, you know what I mean? You're going to get punched in the mouth to tell you, and it's the same old thing. It's not like we're the only motivational guys here. I don't understand where this, even my daughter was saying at the end, like she's 3 years into university now, but even she was saying like, Dad, I bust my butt. I rewrite this thing 4 times and they don't even give us any grades anymore. It's like, you're in this percentile, you're in that percentile. Well, you know what? If I have a person that's consistently 92% and somebody that's 84%, I'm probably going to want the person that's consistently 92% instead of everybody just meeting expectations.
100%. It's such an ambiguous way of measuring things, and unfortunately, in the business world, in the real world, in any world, if you want to make sound decisions, and that's what parents want to do, they ultimately just want to make decisions that are in the best interest of the kids, then we have to give them data. We have to give them information. And people always ask me, like, what's the secret sauce to Mathnasium, and what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, there is no secret. You want the secret sauce? It's that we're meeting a kid where they're at, not where they're supposed to be. I don't care where you're supposed to be at. I care where you're actually at, because if I'm going to meet you at Mozart, but you're actually at a Yankee Doodle level, what the hell do you think is going to happen? Mm-hmm. The kid is going to be overwhelmed, the kid's going to be anxious, the kid's going to be frustrated, the kid's going to feel he doesn't have a chance in hell, because he doesn't have a chance in hell. And so what's he going to do? He's going to run away from it, or she's going to run away from it, and it's just not going to go well. Mm-hmm. And then what happens after that is they get told, oh, you need to focus, man, you have a bad attitude, oh, you need to take some pills and numb yourself out, and all this stuff. And it's just like, wait a second. Mm-hmm. Like, if we were just meeting kids where they're at and giving them a chance, a fighting chance to actually perform and succeed, they wouldn't be in these positions, nor would they feel this way.
Yeah, 100%. So how many, without naming names, obviously, when people come to you, how many of them is it closer to Yankee Doodles or closer to Mozart's? Like, what is the data showing you right now?
You know what? I would say 90% of the children that we serve, whose parents call me and say, my kid's struggling in math, I will meet every single one of them, and I will assess every single one of them. And 90% of these children aren't even struggling in math. They're struggling with numbers. Everything in math is numbers. Except by the time they get to grade 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, it's no longer numbers, baby. It's now letters, like X and Y and A, B, C, D. And so I'm sorry, man, if you don't know how to do this shit with numbers, what the hell do you think is going to happen when we start throwing letters at you?
So wait a minute. What do you mean struggling with numbers? What, like that's an open-ended statement?
Sure. Numbers, like adding numbers, subtracting numbers, multiplying numbers, dividing numbers, fractions, exponents, decimals. That's all numbers. X, or it's not X, but 2 over 4. Okay, well, if you can't do 2 over 4, how am I going to show you how to do X over Y? You know, if you don't know that 8 times 9 is 72, how am I going to teach you what 8x equals 72, how to compute that? It's just like trying to teach Mozart to a kid who's at a Yankee Doodle level. So that's what I mean by that. I just assessed a student about 2 months ago who is going into, she was in grade 9 and she wrote a grade 1 test and she got 37% on. Effectively, she is at a kindergarten level. How on earth is she supposed to sit through grade 9? My kid is in grade 1. It's like,
but how does that happen? But how does that happen? How does that happen? We're not talking about a third world country here. No disrespect to third world countries, but we're talking about supposed, one of the have countries in the world. How the hell does that happen?
Feelings. We didn't want to hurt her feelings in grade 1 or grade 2 or grade 3 or grade 4 or grade 5. Right? And like I said earlier, fast forward to grade 9. Ask her how she feels right now. She feels terrible. You know? And then when they get to the real world, and by real world I mean now you're done grade 12, you got your free medal, and everyone said bye, right? Now they get to the real world, and what do their options look like? Doesn't matter what you want to be when you grow up. You want to be an engineer, you want to be a plumber who owns his or her own business. Guess what's going to follow you? Math and English, right? And so once they get to the post-secondary, after grade 12 space, their options are very limited because, math is everywhere.
Okay, so what's it look like? Like if I'm a parent, I'm interested in what Ash is saying here on Ballsy Uncut. How do I go about doing that? How comfortable of a setting is it in terms of the evaluation? Is it a typical classroom setting? Like what's that look like? Because when I think of somebody that, like you just described, way below par with regards to math, the word anxiety comes into play. And then if I don't want to be there, I'm not going to do it. So how do you make it comfortable? What's it look like? Can you just paint the picture for us?
How do we make it comfortable is by we're not lying to kids. We're meeting them where they're at, again, not where they're supposed to be at. So how do I know where they're at? Well, I got to assess them. So 90% of the kids that come here initially come here with their shoulders are up at their ears. They're anxious. They don't want to be here because they think they hate math. I'll spend 15, 20 minutes with them tops, just talking before we even jump into math. Just talking about how they feel, explaining to them why they might feel that way. And then all of a sudden, it's fascinating, man. Each time, every parent will come back and say, "What the hell did you just do to my kid?" And the answer is, I just talked to them. I just talked to them. They were heard. They didn't hear someone saying, "Oh, you need to focus, you need to work harder, you need a better attitude." I was just listening to them and talk about the things that they're going through and experiencing at school and in the classroom and at home with homework, etc. And then I just concluded by saying, the way you feel is actually very normal, and here's why you're feeling this way. And then after that, they're way more comfortable with actually doing a math test. They'll do a math test, and then I'll be able to determine with laser precision every single topic in math that they're really good at and every single topic in math that they're not yet good at. But more importantly, I'll be able to figure out their brains in terms of who are these kids, how are they wired, how do they think, how do they need to be taught, how do they not need to be taught. One of the things that drives me nuts about the school system as a whole, and this isn't a knock on teachers at all, I think teachers are warriors who are doing their best with very little. But the thing that does drive me nuts about the school system is that we keep saying kids are different, kids are unique, not one child is the same. And then we take 30 of them and we shove them into one classroom with one teacher, with one textbook teaching one way, and then we're scratching our heads going, why aren't we getting one outcome? And the answer is because, again, which side of our mouths are we speaking? Are they different or are they not, right? And so once I have the assessment, I will then be able to figure out with precision who this kid is, design something specifically for them, and meet them there. And then once you have a kid being met where they're at, they know they're being challenged, but it's not up here. It's like it's within reach. Kids want to do well. They actually do. A lot of us think that it's just, oh, that's the way kids are. They just don't want to. They check out. No, it's because they know they're fighting a fight that they have no business fighting, and that's what makes them go.
So with you and your instructors, do you like, without naming names, it's like a coach. When a coach, tells the kid to work on this skill, and all of a sudden he comes down the wing and he puts a top shelf when he couldn't raise it off the ice.
Yeah.
As a coach, you're like pumped, like, holy cow, I taught that kid how to catch, and he made a catch in a game. That's exciting. So how about when you're sitting there and a kid comes in like this and he's all nervous and he doesn't want to be here? Basically, his mom's got to or dad's got to drag him or her in, and then a couple weeks or a couple months in, they're like, they got a spring in their step. They're actually coming there. They want to be there. How fulfilling is that? That's probably where you say, oh, the program's working.
Dude, every day. Every day. You said a couple weeks they come in feeling better. It's like within hours. Sometimes parents don't recognize their kid an hour and a half later after they've dropped them off initially. And it's because, again, I'm not sitting there pumping their tires or anything like that. They're doing it themselves because they're seeing, oh my God, this is within reach. I didn't understand this before. Now I get it. That's where the addiction comes in. It's an actual dopamine release in the blood, versus a cortisol release of stress that makes people run away or fight or flight or whatever, right? So no, the dopamine's actually really addictive. So it's not us gassing them through the vents. It's them literally sitting down going, holy shit, this was hard, but I actually get it now.
Yeah.
Give me more of that.
And that's interesting. I try to tie it in sports and athletics here. That is one thing. Like when you're playing sports and you finally, I just watch these kids at the combine and they run their 40 or they've been training and they bench press 15 or 18. You got that rush. It's the same type of thing in the classroom. It's the same type of thing. You do get that same rush, right?
Totally, man. And that's the way kids are born, to be honest. Like my kids and my daughter's grade 1. She just wants to do well in everything, right? Mm-hmm. But it's because, like, for example, she'll be cutting the grass. Yeah, she'll be mowing the lawn. But I'm also aware of where her limits are. So I'm always challenging her just a bit more than her limit, right? But I'm not telling her, go open the garage, go put gas in the mower, and go pull the damn thing and do the lawn. No, like I'm always making sure that wherever she's at, I'm just meeting her a little bit higher, right? And that's what's getting her to progress.
So I'm just trying to get a mental image here. If I'm a parent, I got a grade 2. Are they sitting in a classroom with the grade 12? Like, how does that work? Like, can you just maybe
it's all one-on-one. No.
Still one-on-one. All one-on-one.
No kids are in classes or groups of 5 or 10 or 2 even. You can't deliver custom education in a group setting. It has to be one-on-one, and they're working out of their own textbook. So, again, I have probably, 40 grade 4 students right now. All of these students during the day, they're in a class with one textbook, one teacher, one way, right? Yet with us, they all have completely different textbooks. And why is that? Because they're completely different kids, right?
Well, it's like one-on-one training, right? You could train 6 defensive backs at once, or you could hire a guy to just say, okay, this is what you got to do. This is how you transition your hips. I love it, man. If people want to get more information on Mathnasium, Rochdale, 4127 Rochdale, how do they go about doing it? Because like I said, I talked to a guy in my building at Crestview, and he's sold on it.
Yeah, no, it's just Google us, Mathnasium, Rochdale. I think you can just Google my name even, it turns out.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4127 Rochdale, Facebook, Instagram. You guys can fax us. I don't actually have a fax machine, but you get it. We're easy to find.
Hey, and you're a CFL fan, you're a Rider fan. How do you think they're going to do this year?
I'm hopeful. Let's leave it at that.
Okay. Did you like the mayor signing?
What's that?
Did you like the Jake Mayer signing?
It's an interesting one, man. I like it because I think the guy has skill. In Calgary, I don't think he was necessarily surrounded by everything he needed. I think we have a better support system for him, and I like that he's kind of. I don't know if it'll be a 1-2 system with Harris or not, but I like the depth that we have in that position now for sure.
I don't know how I feel about the Riders. I'm not bullish on them, and I'm not down on them because I think last year was a bit of a mirage. The CFL, you don't generally go 8 games winless in your division and finish second place in the West Division.
Yeah, that is true. I feel like a lot of it last year was mental. We weren't mentally strong, or we thought we were, and then all of a sudden all this adversity came along, and then it just seems like we're mentally buckling. So it'll be interesting. I think you're right. There was a bit of an anomaly last year, but hopefully we got some more depth and there's more mental stamina to be a bit more consistent this year.
I'm going to bite my tongue, but just because I have a vested interest right now, but I'm throwing this to you to see what you have to say, okay? How do you feel about this league not having a commissioner and also having a combine where, in fairness to them, it's limited with the seating capacity?
Yeah.
They restricted it to rider season ticket holders, which that's their decision, that's fine. But then you don't stream it. You're talking about building blocks there. To me, that seems like anti-building to me.
Well, and I think overall, it's no secret that the league is struggling a little bit with its identity, and identity is usually connected to marketing and just capturing people's attention. And I think, to your point, like that's a big opportunity lost. And I hope that this, the new brass, whoever that ends up being, can see that a lot of the solutions revolve around the marketing and the communicating of the league, the brand, the opportunities, the impact, and all that stuff. And it's not just about, spreadsheets and dollars and cents.
Mm-hmm, yeah. All right, Ash, thanks for your time, man. Mathnasium, 4127 Rochdale. Appreciate it, bro.
Thanks a lot for having me, man.
Well, admittedly, maybe a little naive and who knows, maybe a little arrogant to think everybody knows my background. I was a broadcaster in traditional media for 28 years. 1 year in Estevan, 27 years at Harvard Broadcasting in Regina. And that's about all I can say right now. Once my severance runs out, I can say a lot more. And believe me, you know me, I call it like I see it. So no doubt I will be saying some more, but not right now. So, but for 25 years, so I was the voice of the Rams, the football team, for 16 years, junior and university. I was the pre- and post-game show host for the Roughriders for 18 years and sideline reporter, and I was the play-by-play guy for the Roughriders for 2 years. So I know a lot about, and I hosted a radio show, sports radio show, for 2 years. So I got that, that background, but I was also a morning show host on a rock station in Regina for 25 years. All right? And they don't pay my bills per se, so they don't deserve to be mentioned on this podcast, quite frankly. So, but if you know my background, you know where I was. But part of my life, like I got to do the best of both worlds, do sports, but do other things with a bunch of co-hosts. So we talked about different world topics. So I'm going to call this segment Other News That Isn't Sports. Other News That Isn't Sports. So here's a question for you. Do you do this? And does anyone make fun of you for it? CNN talked to a bunch of experts who think more adults should be sleeping with stuffed animals. We tend to think of it as just something for kids, but they say grown-ups can benefit from it for the same reason. Hugging something soft is just comforting. It can help if you tend to lie in bed feeling stressed at night. And it can help you sleep, especially if you start associating it with sleep. One expert said it's a lot better than relying on sleeping pills or a glass of wine before bed. I disagree. I'm drinking a little spiced rum and Diet Coke. Hey, couldn't drink when I was on radio, but I'm in my house. Why not? A poll on bathroom emergencies looked at the worst possible restroom options, and this isn't a big revelation. You could probably guess the number one worst place you don't want to go. Porta potties. I used to host Rock in the Valley before it was the Country Music Festival, and whenever they would bring the porta potties, like I was there when they dropped the porta potties off, and you think they'd be clean, but they always seem to be dirty. Like, I think they just come dirty. Like, I've never been in a porta potty when I was the first guy there and it smelled clean. Like, I think when it's manufactured with piss and shit in it. That's what it feels like anyway. So that's the worst restroom option. Gas station bathrooms, yeah, that was number 2. Toilets at public parks like Wascana Park in Regina, sorry, not going there. Restrooms at crowded concerts. And toilets on buses, trains, and or airplanes. Those are the worst. I used to hate having, when I played on the Regina Rams, not like these guys now where they get an offense and a defense bus. We went with all the coaches, all the directors, all the players in the Iron Lung to Calgary. Big fat lineman sitting next to you, and they always put me with the fat lineman because they could squeeze the little 145-pound receiver next to a big lineman like Gary Bresh or my buddy Tom McCallum or whatever. But then when you had to go to the bathroom, you had to walk. There was injured players laying on the floor on the way home, so you had to step on the railings of the seats, and then you got into the bathroom, and it was already gross and dirty. Absolutely hated it. I'd rather my bladder burst. Crazy. Also, here are positives and negatives to an increasingly cash society. Well, there are positives and negatives. This is an unexpected one. They're saying fewer children are swallowing and choking on coins in North America. That's a positive. Let's be clear. And listen, I remember being in my buddy Dean Schaaf's basement when I was 16 years old in East Regina. 16-year-old guy, 1988. The Looney just came out, I believe, in 1987. And we're talking about the Looney. And I'm flipping this thing up in the air as I'm laying on my backside in his basement. And the damn thing went up. My mouth was open and it went right down into my throat. And I was hacking and coughing and panicking. And he drove me to the hospital. And the nurse was laughing. She said, you're fine. A baby can swallow more than that and live. And I said, well, like, how do you get it out? You just have to crap it out. So I had to wait for the 1987 Looney to come out, and it did. And I didn't bother reaching in to get it. I just flushed it down the toilet. So there's my swallowing coin stories. Okay. And lastly here on the other news that isn't sports segment, drinking 8 glasses of water every day is like flossing, right? Like most of us go through phases where we're really good about it, and then we stop doing it for months at a time. 87% of North Americans say that getting enough hydration is important, especially in the morning, because it sets the tone for the day. But 34% of people say they typically don't drink water until after 3 p.m. And coffee does not count, just because it has water technically, and not beer either, okay? So these are signs maybe you're not drinking enough water. You gain so much weight that Elon Musk thinks you're one of his baby mamas. Your urine is dark. That's right. It draws skulls and listens to Marilyn Manson. And another sign you're not drinking enough water, you struggle to fall asleep, even with Ballsy Uncut on. That's going to do it for this installment. I appreciate all the sponsors that have gotten on board to help me out. Ward Tire Craft, District Brewing, Gerhardt Studios, AGT Foods Canada, my buddy Kevin Welsh, his wife Chantel, Hammer Time Roofing in Saskatoon for helping my get the Our Balls Are Bigger shirts out. I'll be sending some out to the people that have already purchased. If you like a shirt, $25 goes to the ALS foundation started by Glenn Love. Just talked to him. He said he's hanging in there. He's really concentrating on his foundation, the Love Life ALS Foundation. I will send out a shirt if you send me a message. DM me at Michael Ball on Facebook, at Ballsy Uncut on Facebook, at Ballsy Uncut on X, or at The Real Ballsy on X, or Instagram page at The Real Ballsy or Ballsy Uncut. A few ways to get a hold of me, or you can always text me, 306-526-7979. But thanks to AGT Foods Canada for getting on board, Hammer Time Roofing, Gerhardt Studios, Ward Tire Craft, and my buddy Paul Waldo at Royal LePage getting the real estate game with the 3-time Grey Cup champ, 306-502-5355. And like I said, buddies at District Brewing, Tim and Joe and the gang. And boys next door, window cleaning. We will talk to you next time.